Hello. So by default, PowerShell will not allow you to run scripts that you've created due to its default security configuration. So if I open up PowerShell for my taskbar, or just search for PowerShell, open up the PowerShell desktop app, if I drag this simple Hello World script I have on my desktop into the PowerShell window, then hit enter, you can see that this long lines of red text tells you that the file could not be loaded because running scripts is disabled on this system. Okay, fine. So I cannot run this script that I created. Technically speaking, what this means is that PowerShell has forbidden the running of any scripts that are not digitally signed. And since I created this myself and I don't have a digital signature for these scripts aren't allowed to run. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the security settings so that PowerShell will allow me to run non-digitally signed scripts. So I'm going to close this instance. Then I'm going to find PowerShell. I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to run as administrator. Now note that it's not good enough to run this as a different user who happens to be an administrator on this system. In order for you to obtain the correct UAC token, you have to right-click and run as administrator. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type set-execution-policy, set-execution-policy, and press enter. Then I'm going to type in the value unrestricted. So this will configure the execution policy for PowerShell to be unrestricted and allow scripts that are non-digitally signed. This execution policy helps protect you from scripts that you do not trust. Changing this policy may expose you to security risks. Because you want to be safe. You don't want to expose yourself to any risks or running any scripts that are downloaded from the internet that may not be safe. So you don't want to leave this policy set at unrestricted all of the time. But in this case, I'm going to answer A for yes to all. And then if I type the command get-execution policy and press enter, I can see that that policy is now set at unrestricted. If I were to take this Hello World test script, well, let's exit. You can either type exit and press enter, or just use the X in the upper right corner to close that instance. So now that the execution policy has been set, if I open up PowerShell normally, drag my Hello World test script into it, press enter, it will tell me, congratulations, you have now run an unsigned PowerShell script. So that's great. So the execution policy has been changed and I can now run my unsigned scripts. When you're finished testing, you should change the set execution policy back to a default value, or at least a value that's more secure. To set the execution policy back to a value that's more secure than unrestricted, just remember to right-click and run the PowerShell app as administrator. Type in set-execution policy, press enter, set the value back to restricted, or one of the other options that are there that fall in between unrestricted and restricted with respect to what scripts they allow to run and what scripts they do not allow to run. Press enter, press A to yes to all, enter, and then just to check yourself you could do set or get execution policy, press enter just to make sure that the value's been changed. Then you can type exit and press enter, or use the X in the upper right to close out. If you'd like a little bit more information on the values that you can set for the execution policy, type get help set execution policy -full and press enter. You'll have to scroll up to get to the beginning of the information, but it'll give you some good information as to the different values that you can set in addition to unrestricted and restricted, such as remote signed and all signed, and what those values mean. So good luck in your script testing. Now you know how to run unsigned PowerShell scripts, which mean they're not digitally signed, and you also know how to set that value back to a more secure value when you're complete with your testing.